Welcome to Clarity Currents. I'm Danielle Laura, trusted seer and spiritual advisor. Each week, I share grounded energetic transmissions and insights into the week ahead so you know how to work with the energy rather than in resistance to it and are equipped to create aligned momentum across your business, relationships, health, wealth, spirituality, and legacy. This is Clarity Currents episode for the week of August 24th through the 30th, 2026. Let's dive in. When I tune into the overall energetics of the week, I see a vision of someone standing in front of a huge table covered in puzzle pieces. At first, they're frantically trying to put the entire puzzle together at once, but then I see them stop, take a deep breath, and pick up the one piece directly in front of them. The message is that you do not need the entire picture in order to know what piece comes next. There have been so many realizations, emotions, endings, beginnings, and internal shifts happening recently that you might feel like you're supposed to suddenly know exactly what all of it means and exactly what you're supposed to do with it, but you're not. This week is about taking what has become clear and beginning to make those small, tangible changes accordingly. I keep hearing the phrase, follow the breadcrumbs. Pay attention to what keeps pulling at you, what you suddenly have clarity around, what you no longer have energy for, and what feels increasingly impossible to ignore. You're being shown the path piece by piece. Your job isn't to race ahead and figure out the ending. Your job is to respond to what's being revealed now. There's also a huge invitation to release mental clutter this week. Old narratives, repetitive conversations, outdated identities, and problems you're exhausted from continuing to give your attention to can finally be put down. Slow down enough to hear yourself. There's tremendous clarity available this week, but you may miss it if you're constantly consuming, scrolling, talking, analyzing, or trying to force an answer. Business for the week of August 24th. When I tune into the energetics of business this week, I see a vision of someone standing in front of an overflowing filing cabinet, pulling out stacks of old papers and then throwing them into the shredder. This feels like a major cleanup and refinement week in business. What are you still doing simply because that's how you've always done it? What offer, process, responsibility, strategy, commitment, or even identity within your business belongs to a previous chapter? I hear simplify before you scale. So instead of asking what else you need to add, ask what you can remove, refine, delegate, complete, or make easier. There may be something you've known isn't working for a while, but you've tolerated it because changing it felt like more work than just leaving it alone. This week, the energetic cost of not changing it may become greater than the inconvenience of finally addressing it. Be particularly intentional about what you say yes to this week. An opportunity can be exciting and still not be yours. Sometimes things can be aligned and still not be aligned right now. Give yourself permission to say, let me think about it, rather than immediately filling your calendar, committing your resources, or even creating unnecessary pressure. The path of least resistance in business this week is one meaningful improvement at a time. You don't need to overhaul the whole company. Fix the thing directly in front of you. Relationships for the week of August 24th. When I tune into the energetics of relationships this week, I see a vision of two people carrying a heavy couch together. One person suddenly puts their end down and the other realizes just how much weight that they'd actually been carrying. This feels like a week of becoming incredibly aware of relational weight. What you've been carrying, accommodating, managing, or tolerating that perhaps just you don't want to carry anymore. You may find yourself looking at certain relationships, communities, or dynamics and asking, does this really fit the person I'm becoming? That doesn't automatically mean something needs to end. Sometimes the relationship simply needs a new conversation, boundary, expectation, or way of relating. But there is an invitation to stop maintaining dynamics solely because they're familiar. I also see beautiful support coming through relationally this week. Someone may say something that you exactly need to hear. They might show up unexpectedly, offer assistance, or remind you that you're not navigating all of these changes alone. Let relationships be a place where you can receive, not another place where you have to perform, manage, or hold everything together. If emotions run high, resist the urge to solve something immediately. Listen first, process. Let yourself understand what emotion is trying to show you before deciding what needs to happen next. Health for the week of August 24th. When I tune into the energetics of health this week, I see a vision of a phone battery flashing red at 5%. And instead of plugging it in, the person keeps closing apps, hoping that the battery is going to somehow last longer. But the message could not be clearer. You actually need to recharge. There's a difference between distraction and restoration. And your body may make that distinction especially obvious this week. Scrolling for an hour is not necessarily rest. Sitting on the couch while mentally working through 12 problems is not necessarily rest either. Your nervous system wants moments where it genuinely gets to come offline. So perhaps get outside, walk, stretch, eat nourishing meals, sleep, sit somewhere quiet, put your phone away. Do whatever brings you out of the constant mental stimulation and back into your physical body. I also hear don't override the signals. If your body is asking you to slow down, listen before it asks louder. You may have tremendous inspiration around changes you want to make in your health this week, but you don't have to implement 10 new habits simultaneously. Choose the one that would create the greatest ripple effect and then just begin there. Think regulation over optimization this week. The more grounded you are, the easier it becomes to hear what your body actually needs. Wealth for the week of August 24th. When I tune into the energetics of wealth this week, I see someone emptying a purse onto a table. There's receipts, cards, coins, random papers, everything. And then intentionally deciding what goes back inside the purse. There's an energy of financial cleanup and conscious choice this week. Look at where your money, resources, and financial energy are actually going. What still makes sense? What has become unnecessary? What are you funding out of a habit rather than intention? And where would simplifying create more spaciousness? I also hear don't make expensive decisions from urgency. There may be excitement around new possibilities, investments, opportunities, or purchases, but you're being invited to slow down the decision-making process enough to distinguish between intuition and adrenaline. And you're allowed to sleep on it. You're allowed to gather more information. You're allowed to decide that something is wonderful, but it still isn't yours. This isn't an energy of gripping tightly to money. It's an energy of becoming a more intentional steward of it. The more clearly your resources reflect what you actually value now, rather than what mattered to an older version of you, the more aligned to your financial landscape you become. Spirituality for the week of August 24th. When I tune into the energetics of spirituality this week, I see someone walking through this dark forest at night holding a lantern. The lantern only illuminates a few feet of the path ahead, but every time they take another step, another section becomes visible. This feels like the spiritual message of this entire week. You're not supposed to see the whole path yet. Your intuition may become incredibly loud around something that needs to change, even if your mind immediately begins producing a list of reasons why changing it would be inconvenient, uncomfortable, impractical, or even scary. Listen beneath the noise. You don't have to act recklessly, but you do get to stop pretending that you don't know. I hear clarity is coming through the body before the mind. So notice expansion and contraction. Notice peace. Notice what exhausts you. Notice what keeps returning to your awareness even after you've tried to rationalize it away. Your spiritual practice this week doesn't need to be elaborate. In fact, simplicity is what feels the most powerful this week. You can pray, meditate, sit outside, journal, ask God for the next step rather than the entire plan. There is profound guidance available this week, but receiving it requires enough silence to actually hear it. And legacy for the week of August 24th. When I tune into the energetics of legacy this week, I see a vision of someone renovating a house while still living inside of it. One room is beautiful and finished, and another has boxes everywhere. Another one has walls that are being painted, and yet I clearly see the home becoming something completely new. So the message is that your life does not have to look finished in order for you to be on the right path. You may be changing foundational pieces of how you live, work, lead, create, relate, or spend time right now. And the middle of transformation can look messy, but don't mistake temporary disruption for misalignment. Ask yourself, what am I continuing to build simply because I've already invested so much into building it? And what do I actually want to build from here? Your legacy isn't created through one enormous decision. It's created through hundreds of seemingly small choices that continually move you towards the person that you came here to be and the impact that you came here to make. So this week, don't worry about laying the next 50 bricks. Lay the next one well. Make the phone call, have the conversation, change the habit, remove the commitment or start the thing, and rest when you need to rest. The bigger picture is assembling itself through your willingness to honor what you know one piece at a time. There you have it, Hot Soul, your intuitive forecast for a week. Wishing you a week of divine clarity, intentional change, and trust in every next step. And if you want to know exactly how this is landing in your chart and your design and the specific day you are walking into with the exact moves to actually make, come and check out Evolve AI. And come join us and start your 7-day free trial at fullyevolve.ai. I'll see you there. Until next week.